Hi, my dear friend. I'm so glad you're here. Maybe you've had a long day, or maybe your mind feels a little heavier than usual. Maybe nothing's wrong exactly, but everything feels off. Wherever you are, whatever brought you here, I just want to start by saying, this is a safe space. You don't need to fix anything. You don't need to be anything more than who you are, right now, in this moment. You're allowed to just breathe. Just exist. And be heard. Tonight, I want to gently take you by the hand and guide you into a world that's a little softer. A little slower. A world where your thoughts don't need to make perfect sense. A world where your feelings don't need to be explained. A world that welcomes all parts of you, the tired parts, the anxious parts, the quiet parts, the hopeful parts. We're going to talk about something simple but powerful. Something many of us forget we have inside us, creativity. But not the kind that asks you to be perfect, or productive, or talented. I'm talking about creativity as a form of healing. As a form of breathing when life feels too tight. As a way to express the things we don't have words for. So let's begin, slowly. Let's open a small window, just enough to let a little light in. Let's remember that healing doesn't always look like big changes. Sometimes, it looks like picking up a pencil, humming a tune, scribbling a thought in the corner of a notebook, or folding a piece of paper into something silly. And tonight, I just want to sit with you, heart to heart, and remind you that there is a soft, gentle power inside you, the power to create, and through that, the power to feel whole again. Let me tell you a story. Not about someone famous, or someone extraordinary, but about someone real. Her name is Anna. A few years ago, Anna was going through one of those quiet storms, the kind of pain that doesn't scream, but slowly eats away at your joy. She had just lost someone close to her, and even though life kept moving, she felt like she had quietly stepped out of the world. Mornings became harder. She stopped answering texts. She would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to cry, unable to speak, unable to feel like herself. People around her said things like "you'll be okay," and "time heals everything." But inside, Anna felt like she was disappearing. One afternoon, while cleaning up old things in her closet, she found a sketchbook from years ago. Blank pages, untouched pencils. She didn't even remember why she kept them. On a whim, she sat down at the kitchen table and started to draw, not because she had an idea, not because she was good at it, but because her hands needed to do something her heart couldn't. The first few lines were shaky. Meaningless. But she kept going. And something strange happened. As her pencil moved, something inside her softened. The pain didn't go away, but for the first time in weeks, she wasn't drowning in it. Drawing didn't fix her sadness, but it gave the sadness a place to sit. A space to breathe. Over the next few weeks, Anna began to draw every day. She drew her coffee mug, the wrinkles in her bedsheets, the plants in her window. They weren't masterpieces. But they were moments, quiet little moments that reminded her she still existed. That she still had something to say, even if it wasn't in words. Slowly, gently, she began to feel more connected to herself again. That's the thing about creativity, it doesn't need to be beautiful to be powerful. It doesn't need to be shared to be meaningful. It just needs to be real. And sometimes, the most honest thing we can do is simply make something. Anything. A sketch, a sentence, a photo, a silly little dance in our room. Not for anyone else. Just for us. Because when life breaks us into pieces, creativity can be the glue, not to make us perfect again, but to remind us that we're still here. Still whole, even in the broken places. And maybe, just maybe, that's where the healing begins. You know, when we hear the word creativity, most of us think of artists. Painters with brushes, writers with books, musicians on a stage. We picture talent, skill, maybe even fame. But what if I told you that creativity is not about art at all? What if it's something much deeper, much more human, something your mind and body naturally crave, especially when you're hurting? You see, creativity isn't just about making things, it's about making space. Space for your feelings. Space for your voice. Space for the parts of you that have been ignored, silenced, or pushed aside. And here's the beautiful part, when you allow yourself to create, you're not just expressing yourself, you're also healing, on a level that's deeper than logic. Scientists have found that when we engage in creative activities, even small ones like doodling or humming or rearranging objects on our desk, our brain begins to release dopamine, that gentle chemical of pleasure and reward. It's the same chemical that lights up when we feel safe, seen, or connected. Creativity lowers cortisol, the stress hormone. It activates areas in the brain that help with emotion regulation, memory, and problem solving. But here's the thing, it doesn't work because you're good at it. It works because you're doing it. That's the magic. You don't need talent. You need permission. Permission to play. Permission to be messy. Permission to make something that doesn't make sense to anyone but you. Think of creativity as a secret doorway out of the noise in your head. When anxiety builds, when sadness hangs heavy, when your thoughts keep spinning in circles, creativity offers a way out. Not by erasing those feelings, but by giving them shape. When you paint your sadness, it doesn't stay tangled. When you write your anger, it doesn't scream inside you. When you move your body to music, your grief doesn't stay still. It flows. And that flow, that movement, is what healing often looks like. Not a straight line. Not a final destination. But a river. A current. A gentle shift. So maybe tonight, you don't need to talk. Maybe you just need to move your hands. Maybe your healing won't come from solving anything, but from creating space to feel. Space to breathe. Space to just be. That's what creativity can do. Not because it fixes you, but because it reminds you that you were never broken in the first place. Sometimes the hardest part of healing is not the pain itself, but not knowing where to begin. You sit there, staring at the blank page, the untouched canvas, the quiet room, and everything feels too big. Too loud. Too tangled. Maybe you've told yourself, I'm not creative, or I wouldn't even know what to make, or it won't help anyway. And I get that. I really do. Because when we're overwhelmed or empty or stuck in a fog, starting anything feels impossible. But here's the gentle truth. You don't need to start big. You don't need a grand idea, or a beautiful plan. You don't even need to know where it's going. You just need to begin with the smallest step. With a dot. Yes, a dot. One single mark on a piece of paper. One word in a journal. One hum under your breath. One soft motion of your hand. One photo of something that catches your eye, even if you don't know why. That beginning might feel small, almost pointless. But it's not. It's sacred. Because the moment you make that mark, you've broken the silence. You've said to yourself, I'm still here. You've made space. And once there's there can be a second one. And a line. And a sentence. And a moment. And suddenly, what was blank is now alive. It doesn't need to be beautiful. It doesn't need to make sense. It just needs to be yours. Maybe today, your only act of creativity is choosing a color that feels like your mood. Maybe it's writing a sentence that says, I don't know what I'm feeling, but I'm feeling something. Maybe it's tracing the shape of your own hand on paper, like you did when you were 5. These are not childish things. These are human things. Healing things. Don't wait until you have the energy. Don't wait until the sadness is gone. Don't wait until you feel ready. Start now. As you are. With shaky hands and a heavy heart. Let your first stop be imperfect. Let it be messy. Let it be real. Because when you allow yourself to begin without pressure, you invite curiosity instead of judgment. And curiosity is the doorway to healing. You don't have to know the ending. You just have to start the sentence. You don't have to be an artist. You just have to be honest. You don't have to create something others will love. You just have to create something your heart needs. One dot. One breath. One small beginning. That's all it takes. Do you remember what it felt like to be a child? I'm not asking about big moments, not birthdays or holidays or report cards. I'm talking about the quiet things. The afternoons where you sat on the floor and built castles out of blocks or cardboard. The mornings you picked up a crayon and scribbled something wild and colorful, with no one telling you it was wrong. The way you sang songs to yourself while staring out the window. The way your fingers would trace the fog on a car window, turning it into shapes, little messages only you understood. Back then, you didn't worry about whether something was good. You didn't ask if your art was worthy, or if your ideas were useful. You just created. Because it felt good. Because it felt like play. Because it was your way of being alive. That child, they're still inside you. Maybe they've gone quiet. Maybe life made them hide. Maybe they were told, at some point, that their art didn't matter. That their ideas were silly. That there were more important things to do. And slowly, they faded into the background. Grew smaller. A little quieter every year. But here's the beautiful truth, they never left. They've just been waiting. Waiting for you to open the door again. To let them come out and play. To remind you what it feels like to create without fear. Without purpose. Without pressure. When you engage in creativity today, not for work, not for performance, but just for you, you're doing more than making something. You're reconnecting. You're reaching out to that small, brave, curious version of yourself and saying, I remember you. I haven't forgotten. That's why creative healing feels so deep. Because it's not just about what you make now. It's about who you're making space for. The little one who still lives inside you. The one who once made paper airplanes and believed they could fly. The one who danced in the living room without needing music. The one who made up stories before bedtime and whispered them to the dark. That child is still there. Still whole. Still waiting to be seen. And when you allow yourself to play, to explore, to make a mess, to follow a strange idea just because it feels good, you are bringing them home. Creativity is not a skill. It's a return. A homecoming. A way to say, you matter. You're still here. And I'm listening. So if you've been feeling distant from yourself lately, if you've forgotten what joy feels like, if the world has felt too heavy to carry, maybe what you need is not more control. Not more goals. But more softness. More wonder. More crayons. More permission. More time with the child inside you, who never needed a reason to create, only a chance. Can I tell you something real? Something personal. Something I don't usually say out loud. A while ago, I went through a season in my life where everything felt muted. Not broken, exactly. But dull. Like someone had turned the volume down on the world, and nothing quite reached me the way it used to. I was still functioning, doing what needed to be done, smiling when I had to, getting through the day, but somewhere deep inside, I felt lost. Like I had drifted far away from myself, and I wasn't sure how to come back. And then, one evening, I couldn't sleep. My chest felt heavy. My mind was loud. You know that kind of night, don't you? When you're tired but restless. When the silence becomes too loud. I got up and sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and just stared at the blank screen. Not to work. Not to be productive. I just needed something. I didn't know what. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, and without planning it, I started typing. Not a story. Not a poem. Just thoughts. Little fragments of feelings. Random sentences. Half-formed memories. It made no sense. It wasn't pretty. But I didn't stop. I wrote for maybe 10 minutes. Maybe 20. I don't remember. But when I stopped, I realized something strange. I felt a little lighter. Not fixed. Not suddenly happy. But grounded. More real. It was like I had spoken a language I had forgotten how to use. And in doing so, I had heard myself again. That night didn't change everything, but it opened a door. A small one. And after that, I began to let myself create more often, not to share with anyone, not to make something good, but just to feel. I wrote silly paragraphs. I doodled on receipts. I made playlists based on random words. I arranged pebbles in little spirals at the park. And little by little, something inside me softened. It was never about the outcome. It was about the moment. The breath. The presence. That simple, beautiful act of making something for no one but me. And if I'm honest with you, those tiny moments of creativity saved me. They reminded me of who I was before the world got loud. Before expectations. Before pressure. Before I forgot that it's okay to be gentle with myself. So if you're in a place right now where you feel distant from yourself, I want you to know that I've been there too. You're not strange. You're not alone. And you don't need to do something big to come back. You just need one small moment of honesty with your heart. That's where it begins. Always. We often think of creativity as something that belongs to a certain group of people, artists, musicians, designers, writers. And because of that, we keep telling ourselves, that's not me. I don't create. I'm not good at that. But I want to gently challenge that thought. What if creativity isn't just about painting or performing or publishing something? What if it's about presence? About noticing? About turning something ordinary into something meaningful, just by giving it a piece of your attention? What if creativity is not a skill, but a way of being in the world? You don't have to write a novel or compose a song to be creative. You can express that part of you in ways so small and quiet, the world might not even notice. But your soul will. For example, maybe it's the way you make your tea in the morning, choosing the cup that fits your mood, adding a slice of lemon not because you have to, but because it makes the color prettier. Maybe it's how you arrange your pillows, or the way you light a candle and sit with the flicker for 5 minutes without speaking. Maybe it's creating a playlist based on how you want to feel, not how you do feel, but how you hope to feel. Maybe it's writing down a sentence that popped into your head while waiting at a stoplight, even if it makes no sense. Maybe it's standing in the kitchen and moving your body in slow circles to music only you can hear. Maybe it's taking a walk and collecting 3 leaves that make you feel something, even if you don't know what that something is. Maybe it's choosing to cook your meal a little differently tonight, adding a dash of cinnamon where it doesn't belong, just to see what happens. Maybe it's giving names to the colors in the sky, or rearranging your books by emotion instead of author, or humming softly to your plants when no one's around. These things don't look like art. But they are art. They are acts of care. Acts of noticing. Acts of softness in a world that often moves too fast and asks too much. You don't need a canvas. You don't need a gallery. You don't need anyone's permission. You just need one quiet moment where you say, this is for me. And in that moment, you're not just creating, you're reclaiming something. A sense of wonder. A sense of play. A sense of being alive in a body that feels things. That's all creativity really is. Feeling. Responding. Allowing. And when you let yourself explore that, even in the tiniest ways, you begin to weave beauty into your life again, not because it fixes anything, but because it reminds you that there is still joy here. Still choice. Still color. Still you. Let's pause here for just a moment. You've been listening, gently holding space for these words, maybe seeing a little bit of yourself reflected in them. But now, I want to offer you something more than listening. I want to invite you into a small moment of practice. Don't worry, this isn't about doing it right. There's no wrong way to do this. You don't need to prepare anything. Just you, right now, wherever you are, however you are. Take a deep breath with me. In and out. One more time. In and out. Let your shoulders drop just a little. Let your jaw soften. Let the muscles behind your eyes relax. If it feels okay, gently close your eyes, or soften your gaze toward the floor. And now, I want you to imagine you are holding a pen in your hand. It's light. Familiar. Maybe a little worn down at the edges. It doesn't matter what kind of pen. It's just something that feels like yours. And in front of you, there's a blank piece of paper. Nothing on it yet. But it's waiting for you. Not expecting. Just waiting. And now, I want you to draw a single dot. Just one. Right in the middle. Let it be small. Let it be imperfect. This dot is your breath. Your presence. Your truth in this moment. Now, if you feel ready, let your hand begin to move. Maybe a small swirl. Maybe a word. Maybe a shape that only you understand. Maybe nothing more than lines that loop and cross and meander across the page. Whatever comes out, let it come. Don't force it. Don't fix it. Just let your hand speak for your heart. Let this movement be your voice, quiet, honest, real. And if nothing comes, that's okay too. Sometimes the stillness is part of the art. When you're ready, take another breath. Slowly bring yourself back. Gently open your eyes. Let your hands rest. And just notice how you feel now compared to a few minutes ago. You don't have to describe it. Just feel it. This is what it means to create with presence. To connect with yourself not through effort, but through permission. And before we move on, I'd like to leave you with a simple reflection. If you have a notebook nearby, or even just a note on your phone, I invite you to write 3 gentle prompts, nothing too deep, nothing too heavy. Just little doors you can open later, when you have time. The first one is, today, I feel, no need to explain. Just name it. The second one is, right now, I need, and be honest. No judgment. The third one is, if I could create anything, just for me, it would be, let your heart answer. Even if it's silly. Even if it's impossible. Even if it doesn't make sense. That's okay. This is just for you. A quiet check-in. A gentle return. A moment of truth. You are allowed to feel what you feel. You are allowed to begin where you are. And you are allowed to create something, just because your soul needs to speak. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, not just to me, but to yourself. In a world that's constantly moving, constantly demanding, constantly telling you to do more, be more, prove more, you took these 20 minutes to slow down, to turn inward, to simply be. And that matters. That's sacred. Healing doesn't always arrive with big changes or grand awakenings. Sometimes it comes quietly, like a whisper at the edge of your awareness. Like the soft warmth of a memory you'd forgotten. Like the first deep breath after holding it for too long. Maybe tonight didn't solve anything. Maybe your heart still feels heavy. That's okay. This space was never about fixing you, it was about holding you. Reminding you that you are not alone. That your feelings are not too much. That your softness is not a weakness. That your creativity is not frivolous. It's medicine. It's memory. It's magic. And it's yours. You don't have to write a poem to be poetic. You don't have to paint to see the world in color. You don't have to sing to feel music move through your bones. You are already creative, simply by being here, by breathing, by feeling, by choosing to stay curious about yourself. So as we close this little chapter together, I want to leave you with this: you were never too late. You were never behind. You didn't miss your moment. Healing doesn't have a deadline. Creativity doesn't keep score. There is still time. Time to explore. Time to wonder. Time to soften. Time to return. And you, exactly as you are right now, yes, you are worthy of that time. So tonight, as you lay down to rest, or sip your tea, or stare up at the ceiling in quiet reflection, I hope a small part of you feels lighter. I hope you remember that healing is allowed to be gentle. That you are allowed to grow slowly. That even the tiniest act of creating one word, one thought, can be enough. You are enough. Always have been. Always will be. I'll be here when you need a voice to sit with you in the quiet. Until then, keep breathing, keep feeling, keep creating. Softly. Bravely. Beautifully. Good night, my friend.